Okay, I'm going to do this. And we're just going to talk.
Okay.
I'll ask some questions, Michelle will ask some questions, and we'll just kind of work through it.
All right.
First thing I'm having everybody do is, if you could sort of describe yourself as a child to us.
I would say as a child, I was very fun-loving, very academically oriented. I knew very, very early on that I wanted to be a teacher, and very early on, too, that I wanted to be a sister.
How early on do you think it was?
It was in the first grade. I was taught by sisters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, and each and every sister showed me something more beautiful about religious life, and I knew I wanted to be like them. I certainly spent time in our basement. After I practiced my piano lessons, then I played sister, and I taught, and then I would go up to my room and have prayer time, had a little altar upstairs. It was lovely to be a child.
So you would line up all your little dolls or animals?
No, I didn't have dolls that many and didn't have animals. Sometimes when I could get the little neighbor girl next door, I would have her come in and she would be one of the students. But many times they were just imaginary, and that was fine.
That paints a really interesting image there. I love that. In your biography here, I see in quotation, pioneer family.
Yes. In 1956, my parents and I moved to Florida, and we lived in a little city called Dunedin. It's on the West Coast. It's in the Tampa Bay area. And we helped to bring about the first Catholic church, Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Dunedin. My dad worked very diligently. Before the church was ever built, it was built on the site of a large orange grove. And he made sure that the fellows who came to pick the oranges gave the pastor, the church, the correct credit. My mother was very involved in the altar society. I was one of Father's little sacristans, in that I would take care of making sure that the little vigil lights were lit and prepared for Mass on the weekends. And just early on, Father knew that I wanted to become a sister. And he's probably the one, and I'm speaking of Monsignor William Du Bois, presently 92 years of age. And he's the one who probably said, "Have you ever considered the Sisters of St. Joseph, of St. Augustine?" And so we were one of the members of the pioneer family. And I was the first vocation to the religious life. And one of my very dear friends, a young man, was the first member to become a Jesuit priest. So.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the St. Charles School?
Yes, that was my first mission. St. Charles in Orlando, Florida. I was a third grade teacher. And one of the joys of that particular school was that was the first communion class. So for 2 wonderful years, I had first communicants usually each group, by the time you put the 2 third grades together and the children that came in for religious studies on the weekend, I usually had a group of 100, maybe a little more. But I went back later to St. Charles in 1996 as an assistant principal, and I told them I was probably sent back to atone for the mistakes of my youth.
Had it changed very much?
Oh, it had changed a great deal, a great deal. Many new classrooms, a very efficient library with a librarian, a social hall that was very, very nice. The students came to eat there. Meals, hot meals were served, although some could bring their lunch from home, but it had changed a great deal.
Yes, it was nice to see it grow,
Oh, yes.
become so much more.
Oh, yes.
And then you, let's see, St. Peter and Paul School in Miami.
Yes.
So what was your role there?
At St. Peter and Paul, I taught over the, I believe I was there for 6 years. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, either specializing in math or whatever the important piece that was needed in the academic world at that school. When I first went there, I was a little hesitant because I knew that at that particular time there were many Cuban refugees, and I did not speak any Spanish whatsoever. And the beauty was to find that most of those students spoke very fine English, and it was a challenge. It was a very large school, and I had very large classes. I had 1 8th grade class, which there were 57. I called them my Heinz 57 varieties.
So what was the best part of that, and what was the challenging part of the 57?
Well, the best part of it, without a doubt, was that particular year, that class was probably what we would say of the more gifted students. And they not only did the regular studies in math, but I was also privileged to teach them, with the help of television, an Algebra 1 course. They took a test at the end of the year, everyone passed, and they were able to go on to high school and begin geometry. The most difficult piece, I would say, was that I also worked with some of the boys that had just come over from Cuba, and they were in what I would call like a foster home, a group home. They needed a lot of help with reading and math. Now, math is like a universal language, so that wasn't as difficult for me as one of the sisters who went with me, who worked with them with the reading. But that was a challenge. And being there without parents, they could be a little difficult discipline-wise. But for the most part, I had no problem.
How about Bishop Kenny? Did that get a little easier?
There was another challenge. That was my first experience of high school, which I wanted for so many years. I remember when I was very, very young and didn't even have any kind of a classroom experience yet, I was told by other sisters that being so small in size, I probably would never get anything beyond the 3rd grade. So, and my heart nearly broke because I wanted to be a high school teacher. So Bishop Kenny was the first, and I enjoyed nearly 10 years there, met wonderful, wonderful students, many of whom have come back to see me. And you know, they always say, "Oh, sister, you haven't changed a bit," but they certainly have. They have. They've grown, they've matured, and they're doing such wonderful things, not only for their families, but for church. And that is beautiful to see. One young man was a member of the military, and he came to see me one day, and then I was invited to his ceremony when he left the military. And he reminded me of a day when he had made a 100 on a diagramming test, and I made such a production of it because I think he may have been the only one. And he had come from Vietnam. And when he came to Kenny, everything was difficult. Although he had some rudiments of the English language, things were still difficult. And diagramming, I do not consider an easy piece of English grammar, but he did well, and he was thrilled.
That's great. You were traveling all over the place. Then you went back to Tampa.
I went to Tampa to teach at Jesuit High School in Tampa. I was there for 6 years initially, and I was an English teacher there. Then I was elected for 8 years in governance of the congregation. And I had the good fortune to go back in the year 2000, not as an English teacher per se, but various works with campus ministry and giving directives, I would say, to life skills. They take direction in Jesuit schools as very, very important. So it's not just meeting with a counselor periodically, but we had classes. So when I retired from there in 2010, the man who at the time was principal and had known me from early on said that I had done 2 tours of duty at Jesuit. Well, an all-boys school, but there again, some of my most precious years of teaching. Again, such wonderful young men who went on to do some, and are still doing, some fabulous things, not only for their city, for their country, for their God. One young man is now a priest for the Diocese of St. Petersburg, and I'm thrilled about that.
So when they told you, because of your size, and be aware of the high schoolers and all, so you went through all of this, through fire a couple of times, and then you go teach inmates.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Just as I was completing my 8 years in governance, I received a call from Sumter Correctional, and they were asking if I would be interested in supervising the RITE program, RITE, which stands for Responsible Inmate Taught Education. And my job would be to take inmates who would come to Sumter from across the state, really, and they had had some experience of college, and that's the main requirement. And they came together, and I prepared them to teach in the prison system so that they would be teacher assistants. And I had 2 classes, 26 total.
So, how challenging was that?
It was quite a challenge. You know, they, as everyone does, that you come with baggage. And some were just grateful to have had the college experience, which enabled them to come and do this. And they knew that they would, you know, have to give back to the prison system for being allowed to do this by working in the education departments. Some certainly, even though they had the college background, some were much more gifted than others. But we went through all the subjects that I knew they would be responsible for getting students through their GED, and they had to give teaching presentations on whatever subject they wanted, but it had to be something that certainly inmates could relate to, and they were graded accordingly. So I had a wonderful year doing that, and then the prison was going to grow, and the population was going to double, and I realized pretty early on that after those 2 groups, I had probably seen the cream of the crop, so to speak.
So from there, what's your day-to-day
Well,
right now?
right now I am doing quite a bit of work in regard to proofreading written works that go out from the Mother House. So I help with the presentation and going over of Jubilee preparations, getting the biographies of the sisters involved, making sure everything is grammatically correct, punctuation is correct. I work with our director of the Mission Advancement Office in her preparation of the Chronicles. I am tutoring 3 days a week. I'm the very proud tutor of a young man who came to me in the 6th grade on academic probation. And this June 1st, as a 7th grader, he made an A on his final exam in English. And the entire family and I went out to celebrate.
When he came to you as a middle grader, he was how old? Was it in grade 4?
No, 6.
Grade 6. And so by grade
7.
Wow.
An A on the final exam, and now I just need to get him through 8th grade. And he goes to CPS, so he goes to the Catholic school right next door to us. And but he had been in public school and was very far behind.
So tell us just that little end again about how he made the grade.
Okay. The young man that I tutor, Michael, came to me in the 6th grade on academic probation. And this past June 1st, he made an A on his final exam in English. And the entire family and I went out to celebrate.
That's great. So what makes you happy?
Life is happy. Life can be joyful. It's not to say we don't have problems, we don't have difficulties, And even though we may be removed from family, they're still family. And when they're in difficulties, we feel it. Probably our greatest weapon when it comes to that is prayer. And we have time to pray and time to beg the Lord to intercede for them and help them through whatever difficulties they may be experiencing.
My question is actually about, in terms of the Mother House and the family that you have here. Can you talk a little bit about, it's not so much in comparison or the differences, but just what it means to be a sister of St. Joseph?
Well, living as a sister at the Mother House can be a challenge. There are usually at least 20 of us at any one time, could be even more. Also, the Mother House is, the main house. We are to be known, and I think are known, for our hospitality, welcoming not only our own, but any visitors. In fact, just yesterday, I met a woman who was taking pictures of our Mother House, and by coincidence, she said she was from Pittsburgh. Well, right away, we became very good friends, and she works for the Felician Sisters. But I was able to make her feel like, well, she had met friends. And she said, "Do you have any literature?" Well, right inside the front door, we have a lot of pieces of literature, which I was able to give to her, and she would have a nice little way of knowing what we are all about.
The other question I had is, you talked about being such a young child and knowing. Did you feel all the time that as things were happening to you, including being a pioneer family, was preparing you for this? And what can you speak to for folks who don't always have that calling as clear, in terms of what is the difference for you?
Well, I may have been very fortunate to have met the people that I did, particularly the sisters that I did, who made it clear rather soon in my life that that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't that I never thought of anything else. I certainly did. I don't think I would have been a normal teenager if I had not ever given thought to something else. Not everyone has that experience so soon in life, and that's to be expected. But you wait for the call and hope that you have parents, you have other siblings who are going to show you that there are many different roads to travel. And when you find that one, you at least give it a try. It may not be the road for you, but give it a try. And if it's not, something else will be made known to you. But I do believe that the Spirit is alive and well and works with our young people today, and will, at one point or another, will show them the way.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Very good.
Anything you wish that we would know, or that you wish everyone knew?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okey-dokey.
Gosh.